Hi, Larken Rose here. Yes, the video of this title, absolutely clickbait. And you could say that this video is a test of sorts. So let's see how you do. Donald Trump is kind of a crappy human being. He's ridiculously narcissistic, just delusionally self-absorbed and arrogant in every way. He's also a habitual liar. He rips people off right and left. He lies all over the place. He cons people. Everything he does is for his own glory or his own wealth. He's just an arrogant, slimy piece of crap. Now, if I had said all of that 10 years ago, none of you would have been feeling defensive and mad, but I bet a bunch of you were after I said that. Why? What's the difference? Well, 10 years ago, Donald Trump was just this rich guy from New York. Most people didn't know much of anything about him. I didn't know much of anything about him. But if I say he's a slimeball, you might go, oh yeah, I've heard things about him. I think he's an arrogant slimeball. Or you might have said, well, I don't really know anything about him, but whatever. Maybe you knew about him, go, I don't know, maybe he's a good businessman or something. But I bet you wouldn't have gotten all indignant and defensive at me pointing out that he's a crappy human. He doesn't hide it. He's a shit human being and doesn't hide it. Now, why is it that when I say that now, a bunch of people get defensive? Because they suck at being objective. And they don't understand a game that's being played on them. A whole lot of people, if I point out that Trump sucks, will, instead of defending Trump and saying he doesn't suck, because he obviously doesn't, everybody knows it, will suddenly change the topic to how much they don't like some other guy, namely Joe Biden, or a whole bunch of other people. The libs and blah, blah, blah. Now, what does that say about you? That a criticism of a certain individual, a perfectly valid criticism of an individual, instead of making you respond to that, agree, disagree, whatever, instead of making you even talk about those accusations that he's a slimeball, makes you jump over to talking about somebody else, somebody completely unrelated. That game is called politics, that makes people stupid enough and gullible enough to do that. To vehemently and angrily defend somebody you know is a slimeball. That's a pretty clever trick, if you ask me. How did somebody manage to arrange it so that when somebody calls a slimeball, you get defensive and angry and then you want to talk about somebody else? Where did that come from? That is the beauty of democracy, where one ruling class puts up a series of puppets, usually just 2 at a time, and says you get to choose which one of these 2 puppets is going to sit on the throne while we rob you and kick you around and dominate you. You don't get a choice whether you're going to be robbed. You're going to be robbed. Either puppet's going to oversee you being robbed. You don't get a choice whether you're going to be kicked around and abused and violently controlled by a parasitic ruling class. That's going to happen either way. You just get to bicker over which figurehead you want sitting on the throne pretending to be in charge while people behind the scenes do what they've always done and do their warmongering and their socialist crap and their authoritarian collectivism and all that stuff. The same stuff they've been doing for your entire life. You just get to be emotional and bicker over which puppet sits on the throne. And the funniest part, or the saddest part, depending on how you look at it, is that you have huge numbers of Americans zealously defending people they know are crooked assholes. In this case, Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Now, Joe Biden's also demented on top of being a crooked asshole, but that doesn't particularly change the game. You have tons of people defending Joe Biden. They can see with their own eyes that he's demented. He's not even in control of his own faculties. If they know anything about his history, they can see that he's a corrupt psycho. If they pay any attention to current events, they can see that he's selling influence. He's a corrupt crook like everybody else. And yet they're defending him. Why? Because Trump! There's that strange phenomenon again, is if you bash somebody who totally deserves bashing because they're a shitty human being, and make no mistake, Joe Biden is a shitty human being, and he was a shitty human being when he still had control of his brain and his bowels. He was still a piece of shit. He's been a corrupt piece of shit, pushing authoritarianism and abusing people, in fact, black people in particular, by way of the crap he advocated in the past and the crap he voted for. He's a crappy human being. And if you're defensive of him without even knowing his past, without even knowing why somebody might say he's a crappy human being, have you seen what he actually did, including to the black communities in the U.S. and everybody else? I mean, they're certainly not the only victims of the bullshit authoritarianism that Democrats and Republicans have inflicted on the people of America over and over and over and again for your entire life. Why would you be defensive of that piece of shit? Oh yeah, you'd be defensive of that piece of shit for the exact same reason that tens of millions of people are defensive of the other piece of shit that you criticize and condemn. So all you two parties have is pointing out how much of a corrupt piece of shit the other guy is. And you're both right. You're both right that the guy the other party wants to put into power is a corrupt, slimy piece of crap. Now, here's a test for you. If you're not so upset that you already tuned out. Would you trust Joe Biden or Donald Trump to, like, hang out with your teenage daughter alone? If so, you're a crappy parent. Really crappy. Would you trust either of them in, like, an important business dealing? If you know both of their histories? If so, you're financially a moron. Would you be friends with either one of them? Would you trust them at all? Would you think either of them gives a damn about you if you're just talking about them being them in their daily lives? They don't even have power. They're just them. They're your neighbor. Would you hang out with them and think you're a swell guy? Or would you go, oh yeah, that neighbor, he's a creepy slimeball, but whatever, I wave and we go our separate ways? Either you're an absolute idiot, or these are the type of people you would not deal with socially or financially or in any other way in your private life. However, most of you would choose to put them on a throne and give them massive amounts of power over you and everybody you know. Okay, let's review that, because that is the indisputable truth. The vast majority of people who are going to vote for Biden or whatever other clown they replace him with, or vote for Trump, would at least have the sense to avoid them in day-to-day life and not even give them an in to, like, have any control over your own finances or your relationships or get anywhere near, like, your teenage daughters or maybe sons for that matter. But you'll try to put them on a throne. Why? Well, because the other guy, how are you still falling for that trick? How are you still cheering for somebody to be put on a throne? Not because they're a decent human being, not because they're even average. Putting them on a throne knowing that they're corrupt slimeballs who you shouldn't trust with anything or anyone you care about. But you're trying to put them on a throne because a ruling class told you that those are your two options. Slimy crook A, slimy crook B. Well, what else can we do? And so you have hundreds of millions of Americans zealously trying to put either slimy crook A or slimy crook B on the throne. Now, some people are starting to notice, wait, if this is the outcome of our system is shit. Now, if you didn't already figure that out when it was Trump against Hillary, maybe you still haven't figured it out. Maybe you'll never figure it out. Maybe you'll keep voting for an absolute piece of shit that doesn't even hide it, and your excuse will continue to be, well, the other one's even worse. That's all it takes. So if two people showed up at your front door, just obviously slimy, creepy, demented people, and they said, you have to let one of us in. You have to leave your house. You have to let one of us in. We'll go through your stuff. Maybe leave your children here too. You can't say neither one of us, because that would be crazy. That would be anarchy. That would be just ridiculous and extreme. You have to let one of these creepy slime balls into your house while you leave. Which are you going to choose? I hope in that situation you wouldn't be stupid enough to do what you do when you vote. But if you're voting for the slimeball, crooked, narcissistic piece of crap Donald Trump, or the crooked, slimeball, demented piece of crap Joe Biden, you are empowering some of the worst people in the world. Now, the reality is neither of them really has much power. They're a figurehead, and both of them are going to play the same game. It's what Biden did. It's what Trump did when he was in there last time. He empowered all the same warmongers. He gave all the same positions to all the same bankers, kissed the ass of the Federal Reserve. Neither of them is any threat to the actual establishment. If they were, they never would have gotten anywhere near there. Trump pretends to be anti-establishment, which has always been absolute bullshit. He's a New York liberal. He didn't even hide that for the longest time. And now he doesn't even do a half-decent job of pretending to care about freedom. He adores tyrants. I've gone down the list before of reasons that if you think he's a conservative or pro-freedom, or that he gives a crap about the Constitution, or that he's opposed to socialism, you're just delusional. And you're delusional because you're that scared of the other guy and the other party. Is that all it takes to make you cheer for your own victimization? Is for a bunch of parasites to say, well, you get to choose which of these two creeps is going to victimize you. Okay, well then I guess we have to. I'm definitely choosing this creep, not that creep. Is it that easy to fool you? I mean, it would be one thing if you had charismatic candidates who pretended to care about you, at least did a half-decent job of lying. Like, government never cares about you. It doesn't exist to serve you. It doesn't exist to represent you. It never did. That's been bullshit mythology from the beginning that ruling classes figured out, if we just say do what we want because we'll hurt you if you don't, the people get sort of annoyed and eventually they revolt. But if we say, no, we're serving you. You elected us, so you consented to this. You chose your own leader, blah, 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 yada, yada. They're not even good at pitching that mythology anymore. They're not even good at selling that lie anymore. Now they just have two obviously demented, corrupt pieces of crap arguing about which one should have the power to oversee a ruling class that dominates you and robs you and gives away free money and destroys the currency and it's just does warmongering in your name around the world and all sorts of other stuff. So I could have done this exact same video and called it Biden sucks. The thing is, I think it would have less of an impact because everybody knows Biden sucks so bad that they're probably going to replace him because now everybody is like, all right, at some point we have to stop pretending that this guy is anything other than a demented, old, corrupt, senile psycho at this point. But I did it about Trump, even though I could have done it about Biden, could have done it about pretty much anybody running for federal government office these days. The point is, if you felt at all defensive about me pointing out indisputable facts about what kind of person Donald Trump is, which is a shitty person, it's only because they tricked you into falling for this ridiculous game. You are making excuses for your own abuser. You are making excuses for your own abuser. Now, the moment looks likely that Trump's going to win because he's running against a corpse. And they may trade somebody out and Newsom, that frickin' clown. Trump may very well win. Weirdly, and don't take this out of context, I think it might be a good thing if Trump wins, not because he means well, because he's a corrupt piece of crap, but because lots of people are still delusionally enthusiastic about him as if he gives a crap about them. I don't think anybody's delusional enough to think that Biden cares about them. But there are still a bunch on the right who seem to actually believe that Trump is going to do great things because he cares about. Good Lord, do you still believe that shit? Well, the way to make you not believe that shit is to give Trump a second term and get stabbed in the back for 4 more years and see if he saves the day and destroys the deep state and all the other delusional crap that he pretends he's going to do and pretended the first time he was going to do and then didn't. And now he's pretending he's going to do the second time and also won't. So maybe a few more people falling for this idiotic game and then getting stabbed in the back by their Lord and Savior, the corrupt, slimeball, narcissistic, lying sack of shit known as Donald Trump. Maybe then you'll learn. Or maybe not. Because if you still talk as if Trump is something good, if you go rah, rah, rah for Trump, you've fallen for a version of this game that is just patently stupid. The people who went rah, rah, rah for JFK, he was a good bullshitter. They at least had an excuse. The people who went rah, rah, rah for Reagan, he was a good bullshitter, and he was good at spewing the thing about actual freedom and government's the problem. Now, he didn't believe it. He ended up pushing the warmongering and the war on drugs and a bunch of other authoritarian crap. But he spewed a good line pretending to be pro-freedom, so when people fell for that, I can sort of sympathize. Obama was the last half-decent bullshitter. Absolutely corrupt, power-happy piece of crap, doesn't give a damn about anyone, black or white. But he was a good bullshitter, so if people fell for it and thought, he's going to do good things for us, it's still kind of ridiculous, but at least, okay, he lied well enough that I could see gullible people who are, delusionally hopeful, really, really wanting it to be true, that he meant well and he was going to fix things. Hope and change, yada, yada, yada. Still silly to fall for it, but at least I could sympathize. How the hell is anyone falling for Biden's crap or Trump's crap? They don't even pretend to be principled. They don't even put on a show of giving a crap about you. And you're still going to play the game? Well, if you don't vote, you can't complain. Gee, who put those people here? Was it the non-voters? No, it was the voters. You put them there. If you don't like Trump, and you don't like Biden, and you don't like the Democrats, or you don't like the Republicans, how did they get there? People like you voting for them. What would have happened if nobody voted for them? Well, somebody would have been in power anyway. Okay, and then what? If somebody was in power that nobody voted for, they lose the ability to pretend that they're representing you, that you consented to this. Then they're just obviously what they actually are, which is a bunch of parasitical, tyrannical crooks. Democrat and Republican. And then the facade would fall away because everybody would go, well, we didn't vote for you. You just claim the right to rule us. Screw you. But as long as they can trick you into continuing to play this idiotic, illegitimate game and going out and zealously pressing a button next to the name of a corrupt slimeball piece of crap with the intention of putting him into power when you know full well that he and his fellow parasites are going to use that power to rob you and everyone you know and forcibly control everyone you know, That's on you. You're empowering this. You're making this happen. You're making this look legitimate by voting. How long are you going to keep doing that? And how long are you going to use the excuse when somebody points out that the person you're voting for is a slimy piece of shit? How long are you going to make the excuse, well, the other guy... Okay, so you're willing to give lots of power to somebody you know is a slimy, dishonest, self-absorbed piece of shit because you're scared of somebody else. That's all it took? That's all the ruling class had to do to get you to play the game? To make the game look legitimate? To give your vote and your blessing to your own subjugation and robbery? Is put up 2 slime balls and have all of you Biden supporters, Trump supporters, you're the same damn thing, have all of you support that ridiculous game and the ridiculous outcome of it, whichever way it goes, because, well, the other one's even worse. And all the slimy things that Biden does, and the people who vote for Biden, well, at least it wasn't Trump, and all the slimy thing Trump did already, and will do again if he gets in again. The Trump voters, well, at least it wasn't Biden. They're doing this to you, too. They're robbing you, too. They're controlling you, too. Trump is out there proudly proclaiming that if you want to buy something that comes from a different country, he's going to rob the living crap out of you. And he's going to say, it's for America. No, it's the U.S. government taxing Americans. That's what tariffs are. The U.S. government can't tax China. Do I really need to explain this to anybody again? It taxes people who import things from other countries, which limits what you can buy, and it robs you if you want to buy something that happened to come from a different country. And a bunch of dumbasses are out there cheering because Trump is proudly proclaiming how he's going to rob you if you want to buy something from a different country. Stabbing yourself in the back, stabbing everybody else in the back, and empowering people you know are slime balls. How long are you going to lie to yourself and pretend that this has anything to do with them representing you, or that any of them care about you, or that this is anything other than you falling for a ridiculous game and you don't want to step back and admit that every single time you voted, you were empowering crooks and making an ass of yourself, because that's all you do when you argue over who is going to be your master. That choice doesn't matter, because the question of who's going to be your master already assumes you're not free. You're just bickering over which slimeball is going to have the right to control you. The actual question that matters is, should you have a master? Do you need a master? Does anybody have the right to be your master? The answer is no, and you won't find that in any voting booth, because that's outside of their bullshit game. So for all the people still playing their bullshit game and telling those of us who don't, well, you're just not making a difference. Holy crap. Do you really need to all the way drown in your own crap and completely collapse the economy of this country before you'll admit that you helped make it happen? If you voted for Trump, you helped make it happen. If you voted for Biden, you helped make it happen. If you vote Democrat, Republican, or any other party for that matter, you helped to empower the monster that did this. And until you learn to think outside the box and act outside the box, you're still part of the problem.